when we put together offers, we add what we call a scarecrow. So first time offer has a minimum of 4, maximum of 5 deliverables, but has a scarecrow built in. The scarecrow is invisible to the ideal client. Or they see it and they're like, hey, this is really cool, like free booze and free gambling bucks. But the non-ideal client sees the scarecrow and they don't like it, and it chases them away. And so the beauty of that is your offer also starts acting as a filter to separate your ideal from your non-ideal clients.
Welcome to the Agents of Change, the podcast experience you've been waiting for your entire marketing career. Search, social, mobile, AI, blockchain, and neuromarketing. These are the Agents of Change, and so are you. Digital marketing success awaits, and your transformation begins now.
Welcome back to another episode of the Agents of Change podcast, the podcast that's all about helping you reach and engage more of your ideal customers online so that you can grow your business and succeed. My name is Rich Brooks. I'm your host. This is episode 538, powered by the 10th annual Agents of Change Digital Marketing Conference. Today we'll be treading into uncharted waters for this podcast: sales. We tend to stay on the marketing side of the equation on the AOC podcast, but I think you'll discover that a lot of what our guest talks about, which will help you increase sales faster and for more dollars, is also applicable to your marketing offers as well. Depending on how quickly you download and listen to these episodes after they drop, we're about halfway through June 2024, which means only 2 weeks left of early bird discounts on our 10th annual Agents of Change Digital Marketing Conference. That's right. The AOC conference is coming, and it's going to take place live on stage on Wednesday, October 9th and Thursday, October 10th, 2024, right here in Portland, Maine. I mean, look or listen to the speaker list: AJ Wilcox, Amanda Robinson, Andy Crestadina, Chris Carr, Jessica Phillips, John Jantz, Kim Garst, Lou Bortone, Marty Greif, Katie Brinkley, Kenya Kelly, Nancy Marshall, and more coming. This is going to be an unbelievable day of learning. The conference, which takes place on Wednesday, October 9th, and then Thursday, October 10th, are our half-day deep dive workshops where you're going to work with one of our experts on different topics in a small classroom setting, lots of hands-on work and experience. All this information you can find at our website at theagentsofchange.com. Be sure to check it out, but be sure to act quickly, because right now you can save $150 either on your conference ticket or the VIP pass, or save $100 on our digital pass, which gives you live access to the main stage as well as all the sessions on demand. But you have to act before July 1st. Otherwise, you're going to be spending more than you need to. Great content. Be sure to check it out on the website. Again, theagentsofchange.com. But for now, let's dive into this week's topic. My guest today is a U.S. Marine turned electrical engineer and mobile phone designer, turned marketer and multi-best-selling author. He's driven over $500 million in revenue during his career. In 2009, he launched his own company, which became Allies for Me. He believes marketing and sales becomes magical through systematic process that produce surprising results. In August 2021, he began 3 months in the hospital and 6 weeks in a coma when he nearly died. During that time, his team ran Allies for Me without him. Now he shares lessons from the ledge of death and how they apply to both marketing and life. Today, we'll be talking about how to close more deals faster and at higher price points with Craig Andrews. Craig, welcome to the podcast.
Rich, it's such a delight to be here. I've been looking forward to this.
Me too. And I have to say, of the 500 and something episodes we've done, the word coma has not appeared in any bio. So just, if you could, in a couple minutes, tell us a little bit about what the lessons were that you learned from being in a coma that you've come to associate with sales and marketing.
Oh my goodness, that would take 2 hours. You know, when you spend 3 months in the hospital, there's a lot that you learn. But let me tell you about one. So first off, let me give a context so people know what was happening. This was COVID. I was part of the less than 1% of people that got COVID that went in the hospital, then even a smaller percentage that went on the ventilator. And I had the Delta variant of COVID. If you went on the ventilator with Delta variant, you died. That was the outcome. And that was what they told my wife from the day they put me on the ventilator until they finally, not even immediately after they got me off the ventilator. It was 5 weeks before the first doctor told my wife that he thought I might live. But, it was really interesting. Anybody that's been married or has a significant other in their life, they've had some stupid argument. And the good news for everybody is I've got you beat. I've got the dumbest argument ever. And it started this way. I told my wife, I said, I want to go home. And Karen, my wife, said, you can't walk. I said, I can too. I can walk. And she's like, no, you're laying in a bed. You've been in a hospital bed. You've been in a coma for 6 weeks. You can't even lift your arms or legs. You can't walk. I'm like, that's not true. I've been up several times already. And we go back and forth. And the argument ends. She's presenting facts and data to show that I can't walk. By the way, the facts and data were in her favor overwhelmingly. And I'm sitting there saying, no, you're wrong. And it was because some of the dreams in my coma were reality to me. And in my dreams, I'd been up several times already. And like I said, the facts were overwhelming in her favor. I was in a hospital bed. I couldn't lift my arms or legs. I wasn't even strong enough to hit the nurse's call button. But not only that, I had a big tube coming out of my throat that was tethered to a machine beside the bed. But I believed I could. And I would say that that's a broken belief system. I had some broken beliefs and it was limiting me from being able to move forward. And she thought by presenting more evidence, she could change my mind. I would say that that's one big lesson from that is when we run into our interactions with our customers, our prospective customers, they come to us with broken beliefs. We know if they believe differently, they would obviously want to buy from us because we would be able to change their life. And so what we do is we try the same thing my wife tried, and that is, let me present the facts and the data. Here it is. Let me lay it out. And I've got news. If in that situation, me laying in a hospital bed, can't lift my arms or legs, can't press the nurse's call button, have a big tube coming out of my throat, tethering me to a machine next to the bed, if she couldn't persuade me in that situation that I was wrong, you don't have enough facts and figures to change your customer's mind.
I'm guessing that we're going to get into this in the conversation, but what are some things that we can do? I guess first to understand what is the mindset of our customer when they've got a tube coming out of their throat or whatever it may be, right? Like that they have a worldview that we feel is incorrect. How do we first figure out what that worldview is? And then are there steps we can take to change their worldview into a place where they can take a look at our facts and figures and maybe some other things so they can make a logical decision rather than just continue to live in their own worldview?
Yeah, so the key is something has locked them into that worldview. In my case, it was these dreams, which were as real as life. I remember my dreams from my coma like you remember reality from 2 years ago. And so that was my reality. And it took it takes shifting them out of that, but it's about the process of self-discovery. And so there are different ways of doing that. And one way we would call workshop. And let me show you how my wife did that for me, because the next argument almost happened a few days later. I said, I want my phone. I want to be able to text people. Now, I couldn't talk at the time, so I guess I whispered it. I'm not sure how I communicated it, but she knew I couldn't use my phone because my brain was mush. But instead of having that argument, she's like, sure. She reached into her pocketbook, pulled my phone out, set it in my hands. And there's a picture of me sitting in bed with my phone in my hands, big tube coming out of my throat. And I'm just staring at that phone. And after about 5 minutes, I had no idea how to unlock the phone. I had no idea how to use it. And 5 minutes later, I just handed it back to her. Argument won. And I think that's one of the keys of having the patience to lead them in their own process of self-discovery. And one of those mechanisms is a workshop. Just sit down, become the champion of whatever outcome they're trying to achieve. And when they start doing that, they will start discovering some of the limitations. So if somebody's listening and they're an expert in their field, I hope whoever's listening that you're an expert in your unique field. Part of the curse of expertise is you make the difficult look easy. And so if you're really good, people look at what you do and they think, oh, geez, I could do that. And the reality is they can't. So at that point, one of the belief systems that's messed up is, hey, that's easy. I can do that. Well, instead of sitting there and saying, no, you can't. It takes special expertise. You just don't understand. Instead, say, hey, you know what? Why don't we work on that together? And you start guiding them through, and all of a sudden, they start realizing there's some steps that are just too hard. I mean, I experienced that literally this morning. I was taking some folks through a workshop. It was actually, to be very blunt, it was an avatar development workshop. And when we first encountered them, they said, hey, we've got all this avatar work done. We know who our avatar is. I'm like, okay. And I said, in some version of, will you humor me and just kind of go through this process because there's a couple of things I still need. And when we got to the end of that workshop this morning, I asked them, I said, what was your biggest takeaway? And they said, I'm completely incompetent in this. Not speaking about me, but of their own abilities. But it was done in a way that preserved their dignity. It preserved their dignity and it preserved their autonomy. You start taking somebody's dignity and you start taking somebody's autonomy, things are about to start heading south fast.
All right. It sounds to me, and maybe this is just because so many of your examples are with your wife, that you view marketing and sales kind of like the way that many people might view relationships. And I know in your book, you talk about the 5 stages of intimacy. Can you kind of walk us through that process?
Yeah. And there's a deeper study. There was a book released in 72, and I've just forgot the title of it, but that lays out to 12 stages. We could greatly reduce those into, it starts with an introduction. That's stage 1. Then you have a conversation. That's stage 2. If the conversation goes well, you don't jump to commitment. You go out for coffee. Coffee is where you go. You go on coffee dates because you hope for bigger and better things. You believe there's an opportunity that this is going somewhere very, very positive. But because you've had a bad date in the past or a bad relationship in the past, you're bringing some baggage into this conversation, and our customers are bringing baggage into the conversation. You say, you know what? Let's just go for coffee. And you meet at the coffee shop separately. You do it in the light of day. The women tell me that they'll have a girlfriend call in about 15 or 20 minutes to see if they need a rescue. And so there's all these boundaries of safety. They're there. There's no commitment. Commitment risk is minimized. Safety risk is minimized. Financial risk is minimized. But you go on it because you have a need. You have basic needs. And humans, we have a need for connection. We have a need for relationship. And so you overcome these fears, but it's easy, but within a managed risk environment. And so when coffee goes well, then you jump to dinner. You start going out to dinner. That would be stage 4. And then if that goes well and continues to go well, that's when you move to commitment. And, what I see so many times, and this is the golden dream of having a lead come in and just immediately converting them to your high ticket, high trust offer. If you're doing low ticket stuff, impulse purchase stuff, yeah, okay, no worries. Convert people in their first visit. Not a huge concern. But when you're asking somebody, let me give an example. Let's say managed service providers. I'm thinking of one that I was speaking to, and they have a minimum of a 3-year contract where the average contract value is $250,000. And they were trying to cold call their way into that business. And I was like, guys, that's just never going to work because that's not how people work. And they're like, well, we got to work 3 or 4 times. I'm like, great, bless you. That's awesome. Do you want to scale this? If you want to scale this, you need a better process that doesn't have people basically going from, hi, nice to meet you, let's get married. And a 3-year, $250,000 commitment feels a lot like marriage.
Absolutely. So it seems like we need to understand what those steps are along the way, those 5 steps: the intro, convo, coffee, dinner, and ultimately commitment, if we want to make that long-term relationship last. And I understand your point. Low ticket item, you can get away with the Tinder approach to dating perhaps, but if you're looking for a long-term commitment, you got to go through all the proper steps. And we've all had that time when we cold called them, or we were just introduced to them and they're ready for commitment. But that is more the exception that proves the rule than it is the rule itself.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've seen you talk about and write about is this idea of first time offers and how to create one. What is a first time offer? Why is it so valuable? And then what goes into it?
Yeah, so let me start with 2 examples. One would be what we call a simple offer, which doesn't work for complex high ticket deals. And the other is a complex offer. Neither of these are ones that I designed, but people will get them immediately. For folks that have been around for a while, they probably remember Columbia House Records used to have this deal. You get
11 records for a penny or whatever it was. Yeah, it was maybe different than your, right.
Yeah, it's great. 11, if you're somebody who wants to build a record collection, they will get you 11 steps closer to your goal for 1 penny. Just join the record club. And so that's one that worked fabulously. Sports Illustrated had this deal with a football phone. Sign up for a subscription, you get this tacky little football phone. They sold the crap load of subscriptions with that football phone. But those are good for simple offers. Here's another offer that's really interesting, and I love it because everybody will get it immediately, and it makes a really powerful point. There was a guy named Bob Stupak who bought a dumpy old hotel on the Vegas Strip. Today, you would know it as the Strat or the Stratosphere, but when he bought it, it was some dumpy old hotel that was nothing, and he decided he was going to turn it into a player on the Strip, and he renamed it Bob Stupak's Vegas World. And he ran an offer. He said, give me $396 and I will give you 3 days and 2 nights in one of my deluxe suites. When you arrive, there will be a bottle of champagne waiting for you in your room. All of your drinks on property are free, whether you're gambling or not. Even if you're sitting in one of our entertainment lounges, you pay nothing more for your drinks. Not only that, but for your $396, I will give you $600 of chips to use in my casino. So you look at that. So we went from a simple offer, 11 CDs or albums for a penny, to you get these 4 distinct things. You get the room, which was a $396 was a 10% discount. You get the bottle of champagne. Don't know what that cost. Let's call it $100. You get all the drinks for 3 days. Now, if you're sharing a room with somebody you care about and you both like to drink, that could be a lot of money. And then you have $600 of free gambling money for less than $600. You look at that, you don't have to do a mental calculation to figure out if it's a good deal. It's obviously a good deal. And we would say that that's a complex offer because it moved up to 4 deliverables. But there's something I really love about that deal. And it's another important point that people need to take away. Bob Stupak realized that he was going to make the most amount of money when every room in his hotel was filled with somebody who likes to drink and gamble. Because if he could get somebody in the casino, he was about to make a lot of money. If he could get them drinking in the casino, he was going to make a ton of money. And so he structured an offer that was attractive to his most profitable customers. For me, I don't gamble. I drink wine, but I don't think he was serving the wine that would get me excited. And so if I'm going to Vegas, there's 150,000 hotel rooms in Vegas. And I don't know if I would stay there. I'd probably stay somewhere else that sparked another interest, which was good for him. He didn't want me in his hotel because I wasn't his most profitable customer. And so when we put together offers, we add what we call a scarecrow. So first time offer has a minimum of 4, maximum of 5 deliverables, but has a scarecrow built in. The scarecrow is invisible to the ideal client. Or they see it and they're like, hey, this is really cool. Free booze and free gambling bucks. But the non-ideal client sees the scarecrow and they don't like it and it chases them away. And so the beauty of that is your offer also starts acting as a filter. to separate your ideal from your non-ideal clients.
That makes a lot of sense. So the filter makes a lot of sense. It's almost like a velvet rope. It's going to turn some people on for sure. Other people are going to be turned away. That works for Vegas. And I don't even know how he made any money on that, to be honest. But okay, he did. He figured it out. But as we're developing our own first-time offers, what are some of the things that we should consider besides having an offer that might turn away a non-ideal customer? What are some of the things that would spark interest to get those people to try us out for that first time?
There's a lot of details in the offer, but let me focus on the most important one that I see most people get wrong. It has to solve a problem. It must solve a problem. So when I present this concept, probably the most frequent thing I hear, once somebody gets the concept of a first-time offer, they say, hey, we'll do an audit. Here's the problem with audits. Audits just expose the problems that are there. They don't solve a problem. Some people say, well, we don't do audits, we do assessments. I'm like, an assessment's just a nice word for an audit.
Right.
But here's why here's why solving a problem is so incredibly important. When you come shoulder to shoulder with somebody in life and you help them solve a problem, it causes a release of oxytocin in the body. Oxytocin is the bonding hormone that bonds baby to mother. And when you solve a problem in their life, they're all of a sudden bound to you. It's a tighter bond. And so when you're moving them up to the high ticket offer, you've just built trust at an insane speed. It is truly the fastest trust building mechanism I've ever found. The other thing that makes that possible, and this is something else that people would easily miss, is they'd say, hey, cool, I'll spin up this automation. Maybe we'll give them a class or online course, and we'll do this, that, and the other, which depending upon what you're doing, that's fine. But if you're going for the higher ticket stuff, if you're asking somebody to make that 3-year, $250,000 commitment, sending them off to some course and saying, hey, take a course, hope it works well for you, come back when you're ready to buy, that's not going to happen. So one of the things that you have to do is you have to build workshops. Well, remember I said my wife did that for me. She had this workshop, which was, instead of arguing with you about why you can't use your phone, I'm just going to put the phone in your hands. I'm going to become the champion of what you're trying to achieve. And she knew very quickly, I mean, literally, I didn't even know how to unlock, my brain was mush. And I didn't know how to unlock that phone. And so all of a sudden it became my belief instead of her belief that she was trying to persuade me. When you come in, you start doing these workshops, they do a number of things. One, this is the place where you change the harder beliefs that you have to change, you change during workshops. And you do it patiently where you lead them to the answer. You lead them into that process of self-discovery. And then a few things happen then. One, they realize that what you make look easy is actually hard, and that there's skill and value in what you do. The other thing that happens is they start seeing value that you bring that they didn't previously see. And that's one of the biggest challenges for high ticket consultants, is they're bringing value that they have trouble getting paid for because people don't appreciate it. Well, these workshops give you an opportunity to start presenting a taste so that they see that. But the other thing is, and this goes back to the dating scenario, if you want to build intimacy with somebody quickly, do different things together. So the way it looks like in dating is you show up this Saturday, jump in the car. If you look at, with my wife, when we were dating, I said, hey, let's go out drive in the Texas Hill Country in my convertible. We go out and we do that. That creates an experience. Then we went off and did something, went on another date and did something else. Then we went on another date and did something else. Well, each one of those instances creates intimacy. When you change the environment and you change what happens, you're accelerating intimacy. So we believe there should be a minimum of 2 workshops in the delivery of this first-time offer, because it creates these different settings to build intimacy. If you're doing low-ticket stuff, you're going to go broke doing this. But when you're trying to close those high-ticket, high-trust deals, especially when there's other people in the industry that basically do what you do, this gives you like an insanely unfair advantage.
So when you're using the word workshops, Obviously, when your wife handed you the phone, she wasn't putting on what we might consider a workshop. Now you're using that kind of like as a way of explaining what she's doing. So what are some examples of workshops that we might do that wouldn't be about getting a client or some prospects in a room and literally leading a workshop? What are some other ways that either you've worked on it or you've seen other people doing this that might fall into the category of workshops?
Yeah, so we do Zoom meetings. And like this morning, I mentioned we were working on an avatar. And so I actually have worksheets that we fill out anytime that we're doing an avatar. And I just pop them up on the screen and I start asking them questions. And it's good for me because in the process of doing this, I always learn things and I often learn some really valuable things about their client that they wouldn't have revealed to me previously. Not because they were trying to withhold it, they just didn't think it was important. But what it does is it gets them in the position of kind of answering these questions. And this morning where somebody started choking and sputtering was when we were talking about what were their ideal clients, and this was built around a real person that they know. What were some of their challenges and pain points? And all of a sudden they were just like, I don't know. And so you start coaching them through it. And when you're there as the coach, I mean, we've all had coaches in our life. When somebody looks like a coach, you know that they're in your corner, rooting for your success. In a sales call, you're not somebody's coach. You're sitting there explaining why they should hire you. It's a completely different paradigm. And so that's typically when I'm doing a workshop, that's typically it. It's let's jump on a Zoom call, let's knock out some work together. And it's me asking, the way I describe it is like bowling. I put up the bumper guards and then I make them roll the ball down the lane. And it does some really cool things. So I know you're big into neuroscience. Well, when you do that, it triggers a couple cognitive biases. It triggers the endowment effect and it triggers the IKEA effect. So when people are doing that work, their perceived value of the work product goes up. One, because they've invested in it, but two, they also have a sense of ownership. These are their ideas. If you're telling them what to put on the paper, those are your ideas. Probability of them implementing your ideas is much lower than the probability of them implementing their ideas. So your job is to make sure it's their ideas. Put up the bumper guards, make them roll the ball down the lane. The other beautiful thing about that is when it comes time to move forward to the higher ticket thing, if it's their ideas, for them to not move forward would require them to reject their own ideas.
It definitely seems like in the traditional sales process, it is an adversarial process. We are often trying to convince our prospects to part with their money and give it to us in exchange for some goods and services, where this definitely feels like, from the coaching standpoint, that we're both on the same side of the table working together towards a common goal, which definitely changes some of those paradigms that you were discussing.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing that's really neat. I know we talked about this a little bit in the green room. We talk about getting to the first kiss. When I was dating my wife, I remember the first time we kissed, it was a big deal. We were both excited, but also have that tension. At least I have it. I mean, maybe some other people don't. Maybe some people should have more tension than they do. But you have that tension of, what will she do? Is she ready? Can I? And once you do it that first time, the second kiss is given. Third kiss is given. As a matter of fact, this morning, I was about to walk away from my wife and she's just like, hey, kisses. So she starts demanding the kiss. And so that's the thing. The first kiss is getting somebody to pay you money to solve a problem for them. And sure, you can choose to make that first payment a signature on a $250,000 3-year contract. If you like to have a frustrating life, yes, please continue that. I find it's a lot easier to get that first payment on something that's priced stupidly cheap and delivers disproportionate value to price. Kind of like Bob Stupak's Vegas World offer or the Columbia House Records. Getting that first payment, make it easy, because once you get them to pay you once, the next time is going to be so much easier.
Makes a lot of sense. I understand that you actually have a kit that people can use to create the essential ingredients of their first-time offers. I wanted to ask you a little bit about that process, where we can find it online. And also, if people want to learn more about you and your approach, where can we send them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've put together a guide on how to build these offers, and I also have a course. And what I found, because let me just tell you about my journey. When I first started building these offers, I was stepping on the rake for like 18 months. I mean, my first-time offer failed. My second first-time offer failed. My third first-time offer failed a little bit less. But it took over 18 months for me to actually make my first real sale using it. And so this guide will help you avoid some of the mistakes that I made in the process. And then we also have a course for doing that. And it's 23 days access. The reason we're doing 23-day access is we want this to change lives. And we study, we're relentless students of psychology. We know if you sign up for a free course with no boundaries, you will sign up, you will never take it, and it won't change your life. So we put 23 days. That's plenty of time to consume the content. And so both of those gifts are for your audience. And all they have to do is go to our website, which is alliesforme.com. That's spelled ALLIES, the number 4, ME.com. And then add /agents of change, all lowercase, all one word, alliesforme.com/agents of change. And they'll get that. If they want to reach out to me directly, go to our website. There's ways to contact me from that. I think if you Google my name, if you Google Craig Andrews, the number one search result is my LinkedIn page. And so LinkedIn is a great place to connect with me. So those are a couple ways. Pretty easy to find on the internet.
All right. And we'll have all those links in the show notes, make it even easier. Craig, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciated learning more about your personal journey and how it led you to first-time offers and to this podcast.
Rich, it's been a great conversation. Thank you for having me.
If you missed anything in today's interview, if you want the links that Craig shared with us, if you want to look at a full transcript, if you just want some of the key takeaways, all of that is available for free at our website. Just head on over to theagentsofchange.com/538 and you'll see all of this content and more. Check it out. And while you're there, be sure to make it over to the conference section of the website where you can see our full list of speakers, the tentative agenda, the deep dive workshops, and take advantage of our early bird discounts. There's no need to pay more than you need to, right? So save yourself $150. It's like I'm handing you 3 crisp $50 bills. It's like grandma came to town and she's trying to help you out. That's what's going on right now. So head on over to the website, take care of that. I would love to see you in Portland, Maine this October. And if you can't make it, be sure to check out those digital passes. Make sure that you're subscribed to the podcast because we've got more great content coming your way. And I'll talk to you again in 7.
Don't miss another thrilling episode of the Agents of Change podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform.